The ARISE trial compared 70 milligrams of erenumab with placebo in the preventive treatment of migraine. And again, of course, this was drug given by injection. The study shows overall that about 40% of people who got active drug and about 30% of people who got placebo had a 50% or greater reduction in monthly migraine days. And that standard of a 50% reduction in monthly migraine days is one standard metric that's used in trials. The study also included an impact diary called the MP-FID, and there was improvement in functional status on erenumab-treated patients versus placebo-treated patients. Now, the truth is that the summary measures that emerge from trials don't really fully reflect the benefits of drug that we see in practice, because in trials, for one thing, patients know they may be getting placebo, and that attenuates the response rate. And for another thing, in practice, we don't give placebo. So the right way of measuring the benefit of drug, in my opinion, is not by examining improvement relative to placebo, but rather by examining the change made in patients' lives, because that better reflects the experience we may well obtain in practice. So the study demonstrates that erenumab is an effective preventive treatment for episodic migraine, and certainly my practice experiences confirm that.
The so-called STRIVE study was a phase 3 study in episodic migraine, a preventive study. Patients were screened. They then had a 1-month baseline diary and 6 months of treatment. The last 3 months were taken as the primary endpoint measurement. There was a reduction in migraine days. There were 50% responses for the 70 milligram, 43%, and for 140 milligrams, 50% reduction in migraine days compared to 27% for placebo. Those reductions were paralleled by reductions in migraine-specific treatments and by improvements on disability measures that were developed for the study. In STRIVE, the medicines were very well tolerated. Some injection site irritation, a couple of percent of patients had some constipation compared to 1% on placebo, and a few percent have some nasal symptomatology that's branded as rhinitis, but it's not clear at all what that is. Overall, the tolerability is excellent. None of the sort of problems that one sees with preventives we currently have, no weight gain, no cognitive problems, no pins and needles, and really the simplicity of a monthly injection.
So I do not use erenumab as a first-line treatment, in many ways based on what we know of its efficacy and safety profile. It might be justifiable to give it more broadly, but I tend to use erenumab in both episodic migraine and chronic migraine in patients who have significant levels of headache-related disability and who have not responded to conventional oral therapies. So at the moment, there is very little pushback in terms of prescribing erenumab, and I tend to use it in people who've tried and failed at least 2 conventional oral preventive medications, most often 1 anti-epilepsy drug and 1 beta blocker. But I've also used it in people who've tried and failed every trick I have in the book, because the drug has only recently become available. So I think the bottom line is that it's a very useful drug in patients with frequent headache, who have significant disability, who have not gotten the benefits that they're looking for from conventional oral preventives. In addition, on the chronic migraine side, for many years, onabotulinum toxin A was the only preventive FDA approved for migraine. So in my practice, if somebody gets onabotulinum toxin A and they have a great response, then I have not been giving them erenumab. But if they have a partial response, so let's say they go from 25 headache days a month to 10 headache days a month, then I've been giving erenumab on top of onabotulinum toxin A and have seen substantial success doing that. And I've also, in the chronic migraine setting, given it to many patients who've failed onabotulinum toxin A and are no longer taking it because it doesn't work.
Of the patients that I've seen that have used erenumab so far, they've actually, it's been, I'm going to say, surprisingly good. I've been thinking about the CGRP mechanism for a long time, and it's actually great to see people come back and have benefit and no downside to it. Be happy with their improvement. Almost have, it's an interesting interaction as a physician. One almost has less to discuss because if something's working and there's no side effects, then we can agree that we're going to go ahead, and there's not much else to say apart from happy to see you well.